Hi, we're going to talk about power and control with crime and deviance. It's important to understand the relationship between crime and deviance and the concepts of power and control. So the key point to make about this is that social norms are basically the unwritten rules or the expected behaviour for any person or group in any given situation at any time. For example, laughing in church during a funeral would be considered unacceptable. Laughing out loud in a comedy club might be perfectly acceptable. The social norms are different when it comes to laughing for those two different situations. And so whether you're labelled as deviant or not will depend on the situation there. But the point is about how people are labelled as deviant and seen as going against social norms will also depend on the power of some groups to impose, extend and enforce their norms on the group or individual who's acting in a way they consider to be deviant. So many people would argue that conservative groups have dominated the law. And when I say conservative, I mean with a small c, which means people who don't want the system to change very much. They don't want a big social change in the system. They don't want the rules to change very much, and they want to keep the institutions as they are. When it comes to education, the way the government works, all of that, they want to keep things pretty much the same. And those groups have often been seen as dominating the way the law works and the way in which laws are made and so on, and the way in which people are seen as deviant or not seen as deviant. So the criteria for deviance may depend on the relative power compared to others of some groups to enforce and extend their norms on others. So those with power to shape criminal policy are the ones who define what is illegal. And so therefore, looking at the law when it comes to property, we do punish people who take things without permission. We punish theft. We punish people who steal. So the interesting question for some sociologists is who is making that law and why are they making that law? Whose interests are they serving? Are they benefiting the rich or are they benefiting the poor through that? Now obviously it depends on the theory, and different theories will have different answers to that kind of question. Another example is moral entrepreneurs. Certain groups who have the power to try and make some kind of statement about behaviour they see as wrong, as a big problem in society at the time. And they try to get the law changed and they try to get attention about this issue. So an example of this is sex education. A woman called Valerie Riches in the 1990s was very concerned about sex education, that there was too much sex education and that this was leading to young people getting pregnant and having sex too early and so on. So the theories differ on who this social control ultimately benefits. The Marxists, for example, would say that this social control and the way in which people are labelled as deviant tends to benefit the rich in our society. So the law on property protects private property, and so those who are wealthy and rich are protected by the law. Whereas the functionalists would see the social control and the way in which people are labelled as deviant as useful for everyone in society. It promotes the collective values and norms of the whole group. The shared norms and values that we all have are promoted, reinforced and protected by social control, and so the pattern of behaviour can continue and it can be stable, and therefore people are protected as groups and individuals by this system. So it's a very different way of looking at social control. There are two types of social control overall. There's informal social control and there's formal social control. So informal social control tends to refer to the unwritten rules. So it might refer to frowning a look of disapproval, people not treating you with the same level of respect because of your behaviour, your friends sneering or frowning or criticising your behaviour. Formal social control refers to often written rules set down by some kind of individual group which has authority to impose those norms and rules upon others. So the government is an example of a formal institution of social control, and any laws that the government passes are examples of formal social control because they're created by the authority and they're imposed upon the whole group by that one authority, which is the government, which is obviously made up of lots of individual politicians, but it's imposing those rules as one authority. So that's the difference between formal and informal social control, and that's explained the relationship between power, control, and crime and deviance.